The crystalline halls of the Galactic Military Academy echoed with the nervous chittering of 100 different species as Cadet Marcus Chen stepped into the trial chamber. At 6 feet tall, he towered over most of his fellow cadets, his dark hair gleaming under the harsh artificial lights. The other species gave him a wide berth, not out of malice but out of pure instinctive terror. Marcus was a Deathworlder, a human, from Terra, the galaxy's most feared planet. Commander Zektal, a serpentine vorthak with scales that shifted color with emotion, watched from the observation deck as Marcus approached the trial console. The commander's scales flickered amber, curiosity mixed with concern. In 300 years of overseeing the Academy's final examination, he had never seen a Deathworlder attempt the crucible of endurance. Cadet Chen, Zektal's voice resonated through the chamber's speakers. The trial you are about to face has broken the spirits of warriors from a dozen star systems. The psychological and physical stresses are designed to test the absolute limits of known galactic physiology. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Marcus looked up at the observation deck, his brown eyes bright with something that made the assembled alien observers shift uncomfortably. It took them a moment to recognize the expression. Anticipation. Pure eager anticipation. Yes, sir, Marcus replied, his voice carrying that peculiar human quality that could convey both respect and barely contained excitement. I'm ready. The trial began with environmental extremes. The chamber's temperature plummeted to levels that would flash freeze most carbon-based life forms. Marcus simply pulled his jacket tighter and kept walking forward, his breath forming small clouds as he navigated the obstacle course that materialized around him. In the observation deck, Cadet Ythera, a graceful Celestine with gossamer wings, whispered to her companion, "How is he not frozen solid?" Her friend, a bulky Threnody whose rocky hide was naturally suited to temperature extremes, could only shake his massive head. Deathworlders, he rumbled. They adapt to anything. The temperature suddenly spiked to desert levels. Where other cadets would have collapsed from heat exhaustion, Marcus simply shed his jacket and continued. His human physiology, evolved from a planet with wildly varying climates, barely registered the change as more than an inconvenience. Next came the physical challenges. Massive weights that would crush most species were lifted by Marcus with the steady rhythm of someone who had grown up in Earth's crushing 1G gravity. When razor-sharp obstacles emerged from the floor, he navigated them with the casual grace of a species that had evolved alongside predators that could kill with a single swipe. But it was the psychological portion of the trial that truly began to concern the observers. The chamber filled with a dense, oppressive darkness. Hidden speakers began broadcasting the sounds of dying worlds, the screams of civilizations being consumed by stellar collapse, the chittering of hive minds descending on helpless colonies, the grinding of reality itself being torn apart by cosmic horrors. Most cadets who reached this stage would curl into protective balls, their minds overwhelmed by the existential terror the simulation was designed to provoke. The sounds were specifically calibrated to trigger the deepest fear responses of known galactic psychology. Marcus paused for a moment, tilting his head as if listening to something particularly interesting. Then impossibly he smiled. Huh, he said to himself, loud enough for the microphones to pick up. That's actually pretty creative. Reminds me of this horror movie back home, Event Horizon. Though the soundtrack's not quite as unsettling. Commander Zektal's scales shifted to a pale yellow, pure confusion. The human was analyzing the psychological warfare as if it were entertainment. The trial escalated. Gravity fluctuated wildly from crushing force to weightless floating. Marcus adapted to each change with the fluid grace of a species that had somehow survived on a planet where the environment itself seemed designed to kill. When the chamber filled with toxic gases that would melt the respiratory systems of most species, he simply held his breath and continued forward, his enhanced human lung capacity buying him time, while his robust immune system began adapting to the trace amounts that seeped through his improvised filter. Hours passed. Other cadets had long since been extracted from similar trials, broken and defeated. But Marcus continued, and something unprecedented began to happen. He started to enjoy himself. When gravitational anomalies created impossible angles and surfaces, he whooped with delight and used his human sense of three-dimensional movement to navigate spaces that would have left other species disoriented and helpless. When the chamber's AI began psychological attacks designed to exploit species-specific trauma responses, Marcus simply shrugged them off with the mental resilience of a species that had created art, philosophy, and humor specifically to cope with existential dread. "Sir," Yathara whispered to Commander Zektal, "his vital signs are... they're actually improving." The commander checked the readouts himself. Where other species showed steadily climbing stress hormones and neural fatigue, Marcus's biometrics indicated something that defied everything they knew about trial physiology. He was getting energized. Finally, after 6 hours of continuous testing, the chamber fell silent. Marcus stood in the center, slightly sweaty but otherwise unharmed, looking around expectantly. "That's it?" he called out. "I mean, that was fun and all, but I thought this was supposed to be challenging." The observation deck fell into stunned silence. Commander Zektal's scales cycled through colors that had no names, combinations of confusion, awe, and something approaching terror. Marcus stretched casually, working out a few kinks in his shoulders. "So, when do we get to the really hard stuff?" "I mean, this was a good warm-up, but back on Earth my little sister's obstacle course is tougher than this." He paused, then brightened considerably. "Oh, and that psychological fear simulation? You should really check out human horror media sometime. We've got stuff that would give your AI nightmares just for fun. I could recommend some titles if you're interested in upgrading the system." Commander Zektal finally found his voice. "Cadet Chen, you have just completed the most difficult trial in galactic military history. How do you feel?" Marcus grinned, that uniquely human expression that had been known to send entire alien diplomatic corps into panic attacks. "Honestly, sir, I feel great. Really got the blood pumping, you know? When can I do it again?" As the chamber doors opened and Marcus strolled out whistling a tune from his homeworld, the gathered alien cadets and officers could only stare in silent amazement. Somewhere in the back of their minds, a single thought echoed with crystal clarity. Thank the cosmos the humans were on their side. And somewhere in the deepest files of the Galactic Military Academy, a new notation appeared in Marcus Chen's record. Recommend immediate advancement to special operations. Subject appears to thrive under conditions that would be considered torture by galactic standards. Suggest keeping subject happy at all costs. Marcus, meanwhile, was already looking forward to lunch, wondering if the Academy cafeteria had finally figured out how to make food spicy enough for human tastes.